Welcome to another episode of Theological Pipe. News, culture, sports, politics, and everything else from a theological perspective.
It's all summed up in love.
What should I do? Tell me. God is good. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, give me peace. Give me peace.
Put that in your theological pipe and smoke it. Hey, welcome to another episode of Theological Pipe. Glad you're here. If you're watching on YouTube, click the subscribe or comment or like button. If you're listening on Apple or Google or Spotify or Pocket Cast or any of the other podcast apps, click subscribe. Appreciate you being here. Kind of get right into what we're going to talk about today, which is kind of education and some of the things that are happening in education. And there's an argument that a lot of people will use when they're debating topics. It's called an argument from authority. And some people think it's a good argument. So because you have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a doctoral degree in an area that you're talking about, some people will claim that the argument you make automatically makes the argument more valid than someone who doesn't. And that's a debate for another time. But I think that it's an argument that is somewhat weak at times, because just because you have a degree, just because you have, again, a bachelor's, master's, doctoral degree, doesn't necessarily make you a smart person, or even make your opinion more valid than other people's opinions. I mean, everyone that's listening probably knows people that have high-level degrees that you don't want making comments on certain subjects. So being educated doesn't necessarily mean that your argument is more valid or better than someone who doesn't have, is a PhD holder. Is their opinion more valid than someone with a bachelor's degree? It depends on what they're talking about. It depends on what the issue is. It depends on what they say. And I think arguments should be looked at upon how valid they are, how smart they are. So again, being educated doesn't necessarily mean you're smart or even competent. And I'm going to use the instance of the San Diego public school system, and you can go read this. I think it's on reason.com and other websites and stuff. But the San Diego school system started out with a good goal. Their goal for the upcoming semester and year and moving forward is to be anti-racist. They want to be seen as an anti-racist school, and that's a good goal. I think 98, 94, whatever, 96, okay, a huge percentage, well in the 90% people would say, yeah, that's a good goal. Nobody comes out and says, I'm pro-racism. So the goal is good. Now, yeah, there's going to be a few ignorant morons that are pro-racism, and on white, black, I don't care what color you are, what race you are, you have people that think one race is superior to the other. We're all part of the human race as far as I'm concerned, but nobody's pro-racism. So the goal for San Diego public school system is to be anti-racism. Good goal. And so the idea is, how are we going to achieve that? What are we going to do to make that happen? So the geniuses at the San Diego school system, and this doesn't mean the low-level people. They're not the ones that make these type of decisions. It's the higher-ups. It's the principals and the vice principals and the people at the Board of Education, the people in administration. So these are all people with master's degrees and doctoral degrees. These are the quote-unquote smart people. I'm not disparaging people. I'm in education. The higher level of education you can attain, you need to get. I think education is one of the greatest keys that we have to help move people from where they are to where they want to be, and that helps society. Education has issues. I think we need to move back to education and not indoctrination, and that's a discussion for another time. But these geniuses in the San Diego public school system, people with, professional degrees, master's degrees, the people that are making decisions, they want to be anti-racist. They want to institute some things to be anti-racist. Again, a good goal, a worthy goal, a goal we should all aspire to. So what they didn't do, this is what they didn't do. They're not going to focus on authors of different races and give people an opportunity to read other authors besides just old white men, okay? They're not doing that. They're not looking for more opportunities for people of different races and ethnicities and colors and all that stuff to move into leadership positions to make decisions. That they're not doing that. They're not looking at special programs or curriculum changes that lessen the bias towards one race over the other. They're not looking at those things. They're not looking for more inclusive measures that allow for opportunities for everyone, regardless of race or upbringing or class or whatever, to succeed. They're not looking at that. They're not even looking for more program or strategies that work to eliminate barriers or roadblocks or things that are preventing people from different races and backgrounds from succeeding. They're not looking at that. This is what they decided to do. These are what the geniuses of the San Diego school system decided to do in order to combat racism, to be anti-racist. Here's what they did. They're going to eliminate attendance as a factor in grading. So I'm an educator. I've been in education basically my whole life, and attendance is part of education. I teach a class on college success, and the two greatest tips that I give my students is if you want to succeed in college, in work, in life, here's the two greatest tips that you can do. Show up on time and do the work. You have to show up and you have to do the work. San Diego just decided showing up's not important. So if you're a teacher and you are getting ready to give your student a grade and they have a 55% and you may give them some extra points, but you look at their attendance and they haven't showed up half the time, you can't now use attendance in factoring grades. You can't give points for attendance. You can't take away points for not attending. So that they've decided that they were going to eliminate attendance as a factor in grading to combat racism. In order to combat racism, here's what else they're going to do. If you don't do an assignment, there's no penalty. And let me say that again. You have an assignment to do. If you don't do the assignment, that can't be factored into your grades either. So attendance doesn't matter and doing the work doesn't matter. In order to combat racism, another thing that they're doing is your grades will no longer be an average of your scores on tests and assignments. So they're not going to look at your scores on what you score on your tests, your quizzes, your assignments, your papers. None of that's going to be factored into your grade. And here's what their rationale is. This is a quote from the people making these decisions in San Diego. They say, common grading practices, such as averaging a student's grade over time, can disadvantage students who started the year behind grade level and can discredit the progress a student has made. Remember, smart people are saying this, and I think anyway. I talked to my young son the other day, and he poked holes in it before I was even done with the sentence. So what they're saying is basically this: so you're in the 10th grade, and you're looking to move up to the 11th grade. You're looking to graduate to the next level. But when you started 10th grade, you really weren't on level. You were like a 7th grade or an 8th grade level. And somehow you were able to be socially promoted, which they do. Another thing they shouldn't do, but they socially promoted you. So you're in 10th grade, but you really are at a 7th grade level. And you're doing the work, and you're taking the quizzes, and you're taking the tests, and you've made some progress. Of course, you're not on a 7th grade level anymore. Maybe you're on an 8th grade level, but you're not at the 10th and 11th grade level that you need to move on. And so what they're saying is we're not going to use that because you may have made progress, but the progress didn't put you up to the 11th grade where you should have been, but they don't want to discourage you. They don't want to make you feel bad. To say nothing of the fact is, why is there someone who's behind even in the grade that they're at? Why is this person with a 7th grade level in 11th grade, in 10th grade? Because they're socially promoted. We know that they do that. So they're saying we're not going to use your scores on your tests and your assignments. We're not going to factor in attendance to give you a grade, right? They say this: in order to combat racism, there's still going to be grades, but they aren't based on your assignments or your tests or attendance. It will be based on your mastery. And people who were researching this asked the people of San Diego school system to say, what does mastery mean? Nobody can offer an explanation of what that means. It's arbitrary. So we're taking away grades, we're taking away attendance, we're taking away tests, We're taking away kind of any measurement that tells you whether or not you're doing well. And there may be some room for some discussion on how we test people to see where they're at, and that's fine. But to eliminate all of it, and just saying we're going to give you a grade based on your mastery, and then not be able to define what mastery means. And again, this is all to combat racism, which no one has made that connection yet. So here's what they say. This is another quote from the people at San Diego school system. It says, grades are not influenced by behavior or factors that directly measure students' knowledge or skills in the content area. I want to read that again. Think about, listen. It says grades, A, B, C, D, F, are not influenced by your behavior or factors that directly measure your knowledge of skills in the content area. That's exactly what they are. And they're saying they're eliminating that because of racism. So don't do the work, don't do well on tests, don't show up at all, and none of these are used in determining grades because of racism. So according to San Diego school system, I think I might have said San Diego State a couple times, but according to San Diego school system, they've just eliminated racism by not basing your knowledge or your mastery of a subject on grades or tests or even your knowledge of that area. It's just your mastery. It's kind of an arbitrary thing. And none of what they're proposing, right? None of these things. Let's pretend you want to make arguments that, hey, that might be kind of cool. Or, I don't agree with it. I think we should go back to old school and teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. You can look at how the school systems have failed students. The average reading level of students who graduate high school right now in the United States is about 7th grade. The average reading level of graduates, these are people who walk across the stage and get a diploma. The average reading level is 7th grade. That's middle school. They're not even into intermediate high school yet. They're not even high school level, and they graduated. So there's a gap, there's something missing. And then they're talking about the gap between certain races and certain groups in certain areas. There's some groups that do better than others. There's others that do worse. And what they've proposed, none of it addresses the students who have fallen behind. None of it addresses the issue, it just masks it. Right now you have a bunch of people, and it's based on race, and it's based on socioeconomic factors, it's based on a lot of things. It's based on what school they went to, what kind of education they got, were their parents educated. It's a bunch of things. And so what they're doing, instead of trying to adjust it and bring those people who are behind up, they're sort of just eliminating everything and saying now everyone's going to be equal because we don't want to discourage people. So they haven't done anything. It's really just masking the problem. We're still going to have students graduating with a reading level of 7th grade from high school, right? And to me, you don't address disparities in grades based on race or whatever the reason by just taking a wrecking ball to the system and saying this is the way we've done things and we're just going to wreck it and start over. I have no problem with that if you can show that what you're doing is even competent or makes any sort of common sense, but this doesn't. They're going to wreck the system, and when they do, guess what? Minority students, they're not going to be failing as much. Right? They're not going to be failing as much as they used to, and whether they're black or Hispanic or Indians, and guess what? White people will now be maybe the Asians who do better than the quote unquote white people they're just bringing everyone together, and instead of trying to bring people up, they're just kind of mushing everything together, and none of the issues have been addressed. So yes, blacks and Hispanics and whites and Asians are all going to be graduating at the same level, and isn't that beautiful? And look at all the diversity. But you still have people that can't write, that can't read, that can't communicate, that don't know math skills. We're falling behind in these areas, and we have been for decades. And the idea that we've had is this kind of stuff. We need to do something different. I mean, again, congratulations, minority students aren't going to be falling behind as much as they used to, but that's because we aren't grading them or testing them on their knowledge, and we're not even asking them to show up. Don't show up if you don't want to. Reason.com, that's where I read some of this, they had a good quote about this. It said, indeed this San Diego school system, it says, this comes perilously close to addressing poverty by no longer tallying the number of homeless people. Or, to use a timely example, President Donald Trump's frustration that increasing COVID-19 testing makes the epidemic look worse. Coronavirus cases exist even if they go undetected. Similarly, minority students who are falling behind their classmates will be falling behind even if their teachers aren't giving them Fs. So congratulations, you just eliminated Fs, so they're not failing, but they're still falling behind. There's still disparities that we need to work on. And it's not just race, there's so many other factors going on. So all the people that made these decisions in San Diego, which I hope, even if you are somewhat, I can't see how you can listen to this and say, yeah, that's a good idea. And again, these are quotes from those people. But these people making these decisions in San Diego and other places are doing this kind of stuff, they're educated, right? These are not high school dropouts saying, let's change it because I did bad in school. These are educated people who think they're combating racism by eliminating grades, by eliminating your knowledge of a subject, by eliminating your need to show up and saying, hey, we're going to make things better. It's going to make things worse. It's not going to get anything better. We're still going to have these disparities. And again, I've told you before, I think education is one of the most important things that we have. I think it's one of the greatest tools that we have to help individuals. And then if you help individuals, that helps their family. And if you help their families, that helps society. I think it's one of those things. But I also think there's some things in education that need to be fixed. We need to go back to teaching facts and teaching figures and teaching truth and not indoctrinating students. One of the big things I'm against is indoctrination. It's about education, not indoctrination. Right? There's all kinds of different points of view, and one of the things that higher education suffers from is the majority of higher education institutions are progressive to the far left spectrum. There's nothing wrong with being liberal, nothing wrong with being conservative, but when 98% of your professors are not even Democrats, but liberal, far left Democrats, and they don't even allow for certain speakers who are harmless to speak on campus, we got a problem. And people are waking up to that, and I think education is shooting itself in the foot when it doesn't allow, they talk about diversity and inclusion, but it doesn't include diversity of thought most of the time. If you're conservative, if you're Republican, a lot of people have to keep that quiet, and that shouldn't be the case, And so education is important. It helps us move people from where they are to where they want to be, but what we've got to do is fix what's broken, not dismantle the system and go to what the San Diego school system has decided to do. And again, I don't see how any of those things even comes close to eliminating racism or being anti-racist. And I think it's almost the height of racism to then believe that, we're asking people to show up. That's racist. I think it's racist to think that there's a certain, the color of your skin makes you not able to show up on time, or not able to do the work, or not able to get good grades. Of course you can. We need to fix what's wrong and start working, and it starts from the time kids are born. Right? We need to strengthen family units. We need to strengthen the importance of education. We need to get rid of the stigma in certain communities that education is not the answer, and let people know that it is the answer. And there's a lot of things that we could work on. And we need education, but there's things that we need to do to fix it, but we need to not think that just because people have a degree or because they're in education, they know exactly what they're doing. They don't. And I think the San Diego school system is an example of that. I think we need to work towards education and old school education and reading and writing and arithmetic and being about that and not about other junk, and telling people that if you expect people to show up, that's racist. If you expect people to do the work, that's racist. I think that's just stupid. I don't even know that that's arguable. I don't even know why they're even doing that. Again, there's ways to be less racist. There's ways to teach people to respect differences, but I don't think it is not showing up, not grading people, and not caring if someone knows what they're doing in order to give them a grade, a passing grade. And I think San Diego school system is making a mistake here. And unfortunately, because of the way education is, the way things are, people won't step up or speak up for the most part. They'll be like, oh, well, we got to try it, and behind the administrator's back, they'll be complaining about it. But again, I hope I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this will be the greatest system that they ever invented. But I think common sense tells you it's not going to be. So it's just something to think about. Again, I've said before, education is important. Anytime that we can strengthen education, we need to do it. I don't think this is the way you strengthen education, by lowering standards, by lowering what we expect people to do, and then think we're doing a good job. This is going to make things worse, and they're already bad. We need to start fixing things. Again, just look at our test scores, look at our education ranking worldwide. It's not going to, I don't like when people compare us to Japan, because Japan at a certain age takes some kids and removes them from the school system, puts them in the technical school, and then they get the brightest and the best and the smartest, and that's what they base their scores on. The United States takes everybody, which is awesome. Everyone should get an education, but there's nobody in their right mind in education should think that students who graduate from high school, graduate with a 7th grade reading level on average, should think that that's okay. That's horrible, and we should be doing tons of stuff to fix it, not worrying if they don't show up and not worrying if they don't do the work. So that's my thought. I guess education is important, so I guess put that in your theological pipe and smoke it. Continue to be nice, and we'll see you next time.
Well, bye.